Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are all doing good, having a great day. Today we've got a really interesting episode. The first topic is Blank Room Soup.avi. I have watched this video multiple times now in my life. It has boggled me since the first time I have ever fucking seen it. It's super weird and crazy. And after learning and reading more into the story, I don't know. I think it definitely is a freaky, creepy video that I don't know. So that's the first thing we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to start it off by actually showing you guys the video. For those who don't know or who have not seen this video. So, full screen it. All right. Get ready, guys. I mean, he is just crying. And look at the character. He's just fucking like... Oh my god, this gives me the chills. Look what kind of room they're into. Looks like some sort of office space. Doesn't look like a normal house room. Very creepy. So that was the full video, and that surfaced. So this article is going to kind of give us some backstory into that video and kind of lead us into the theories on what's going on there. So the video that's now typically referred to as the Blank Room Soup video isn't actually called Blank Room Soup. When it first appeared on the internet, it was under the title Freaky Soup Guy, which honestly isn't an apt description, or is an apt description. A mere minute in length, it features a man in a white tank top seated at a large table in an otherwise empty room, eating what looks like a bowl of soup with a comically oversized spoon. He's also crying, although we can't actually see any tears. His eyes have been blanked out with one of those black sensor bars, which I believe was put strategically there because that way you couldn't identify the man. Because I feel like if that black thing wasn't covering his eyes, we'd actually be able to see his face. And I'm sure that, you know, they would be able to like figure out who this man in the video was. So just the sound of the crying is enough to make it disturbing, though. It's the kind of crying that's so distraught that it sounds like laughter. It might even be laughter in some strange way. I don't think it sounded like laughter. I definitely thought it sounded like he was crying, and the type of crying that he was trying not to let the flow, you know, just go, because with his fucking bag, I mean, he was just like kind of twitching. That twitching you do when you've got that. Really, you're crying, you're filled with that emotion of tears, and you just want to let it all out, but you're trying so hard not to. So true to the video's name, the Soup Guy is in fact freaky. But he isn't even the freakiest part of the video. That prize goes to the strange character standing in front of the door, located behind the man. Humanoid, but definitely not human. The character has a white face, holes for eyes, and no other discernible facial features. Its hair is dark, however. It isn't actually hair. It looks hard to the touch, like a helmet made of plastic. Its hands, too, are hard and plastic, but white like its face. wearing a black shirt and trousers. The overall effect is doll-like and appears to be accomplished by putting an actual human inside the kind of suit you'd expect a mascot to wear. As the man eats and cries, the character approaches him from behind and gently pats his back. About 3/4 of the way through the video, the character is joined by another, identical character who also pats the man's back as he eats and cries. Then abruptly, the video ends. This video has equally baffled and frightened people ever since it first appeared on YouTube in 2005. Yes, it's that old. Dozens of theories about it, attempting to explain what it is, who made it, and why it exists, have popped up over the years, most of which have never been confirmed. So what's the deal with Blank Room Soup? Why is it so weird, and what on earth does it mean? To unravel the mystery of Blank Room Soup, or Freaky Soup Guy, or whatever you want to call it, we actually need to talk about a few other things. We need to talk about art and about performance art. We need to talk about a certain creative and artistic event that occurs in the deserts of Nevada every year, and we need to talk about one of the acts that arose out of this event years ago. Most importantly, we need to talk about an animator, director, writer, and all-around creative powerhouse named Raymond S. Percy. Let's start with that last one and work backwards. A portrait of the artist as a young Ray Ray. Raymond S. Percy was born in Eagle Rock, California, an area of Los Angeles located between the cities of Glendale and Pasadena, on February 17, 1975. Primarily an animator, although he wears many different hats, he's been working in the film and television industry since the mid-90s. The earliest job listed on his IMDb profile is one of the 5 episodes of the television series The Twisted Adventures of Felix the Cat he worked on. He did storyboard cleanup on the 1995 episode featuring the segments Surreal Estate, Phony Felix, and 5-Minute Meatball. After Felix the Cat, he moved on to The Simpsons, on which he worked largely as a character layout artist between 1996 and 2003. He also directed 10 episodes of the show between 2005 and 2010. In 1999, he directed the music video for the Squirrel Nut Zipper song, The Ghost of Stephen Foster, which earned a number of accolades on the award circuit. Since 2010, he's been at Disney, where he's worked on major features such as Wreck-It Ralph and Frozen. He's also an occasional voice actor, notably having lent his voice to Flash the Sloth in Zootopia. And in the midst of all that, Percy has continued to create his own independent work as well, including the characters seen in Blank Room Soup. Collectively, they're called Ray Ray. Like many artists, Percy doodles. Also, like many artists, Percy's doodles often reflect something about how he sees himself or the world. Ray Ray is no different. Originally, they were a representation of how Percy views himself, arising from a mix of inhibition, a sense of alienation, and a deep-seated need to entertain. According to the character's official bio, they were sort of a reflection of the hypocrisy inherent in being an artist. We create because deep inside ourselves we need to, but how do we reconcile the need for others to see our art in order for us to feel like it matters? We create for the merits of the art itself, but how do we deal with the fact that we need to be paid for our work in order to keep being able to make it? How do we cope with needing to be in the world, but often feeling like we aren't a part of it? There are no easy answers, but in a lot of ways, Ray Ray personifies the struggles inherent in these questions. From a 2010 video, meet Ray Ray, via the Ray Ray Vision YouTube channel. Meanwhile, there was Burning Man, and out of Burning Man came Mutator. The huge art and creation event known as Burning Man originally grew out of the 2 separate events originally launched in the late 1980s and 90s. One was at Baker Beach in California. The other was in Black Rock Desert in Nevada. They came together in 1990 and 1991. The event took up full residence at Black Rock. That year, there were 250 participants. By 1998, participation numbers had grown to 15,000, and that year, one of the most notable creations ever to arise out of the event came to be the Mutator, a performance collective that's equal parts orchestra and circus. The timeline gets a little hazy here, but sometime between 1998 and 2002, Raymond Percy, puppeteer and SFX artist, and animatronic creator Paul Pistor, and Mutator all came together. And the resulting collaboration brought Ray Ray off the page and into 3-dimensional space. Suits were created that could be worn by human performers, allowing Ray Ray to appear on stage, to star in their own skits, and to generally exist in the real world in a way that hadn't been able to before. In their home base of Los Angeles, they became true cult favorites, beloved for their relatability. To this day, Ray Ray is still listed as a cast member on the Mutator's website, with Percy and Pistor being described as their main creator, while a handful of other members of the collective Arno Uritzan, Julia Yemlin, Elan Trinidad, and Stephen Loeb receive additional credit for helping to bring Ray Ray to life. Ray Ray has various online homes over the years, including the domains Ray Ray World and Ray Ray Land, the MySpace page Ray Rayville, and the channel Ray Ray TV on various video streaming platforms, and Ray Ray Vision on YouTube. Ray Ray World seems to have been one of the earliest of the bunch, according to the Wayback Machine's archive of it. The website was under construction in April of 2003, which would have been shortly after Ray Ray began performing live, and operational by October of that year. This domain seems to have fallen into disuse sometime around 2010, though, and by 2011, Ray Ray World was redirected to Ray Ray Land. By 2015, the Ray Ray Land domain was no longer registered and doesn't seem to be in operation as of this writing, which was 2019. Meanwhile, videos featuring Ray, as well as videos of Percy's other work, appeared on the YouTube channel Ray Ray TV between 2006 and 2018. Additionally, for a period between 2010 and 2011, Ray Ray's videos lived primarily at the YouTube channel Ray Ray Vision. Other Ray Ray TV channels can also be found on Dailymotion and MetaCafe, with uploads dating back to 2007 or 2008 on each. More recently, another Ray Ray TV channel popped up on YouTube with uploads, mostly reposts from another previous Ray Ray channels, having been added in 2018. These online homes do, by the way, all seem to be related. That is, I don't think any of them were just begun by random people hoping to piggyback off Ray Ray's popularity. They're probably official Ray Ray pages. Here's why I think that. In 2011, the Ray Ray Land website, which you'll recall is where the Ray Ray World website eventually redirected to, was under construction. It did, however, both clearly identify itself as Ray Ray's website and link directly to Ray Ray Vision YouTube page and Ray Rayville MySpace page. Ray Ray's bio on the Mutators website also links to the Rayville and well, if you follow these links long enough, you can connect all of them to each other through various meandering paths. This, to me, suggests that they all do actually belong to Ray Ray's creators. But here's the thing. According to Raymond Percy, he didn't make Blank Room Soup. Neither he nor any of the other Ray Ray performers are wearing the suits seen in this video, and he has no idea who actually did make the video or what. So the video wasn't given the name Blank Room Soup until later on. Many people have uploaded it and re-uploaded it and uploaded it again over and over and over during the intervening years since its first arrival, with these uploads pegging the now infamous title to it. And with each upload, the video's mythology grew. It was a snuff film, people said. The figures in the costumes had kidnapped the man, starved him, and gruesomely served him soup made from the remains of his wife, whom they also killed. That was why he was crying, people said. That was why he seemed like he might be about to vomit. That was why the figures were patting his back. They were torturing him, treating him with mock sympathy as they force-fed him the cannibalized remains of someone he loved. The video had originally been found on the deep web, people said, well known to be the most depraved corner of the internet. This backstory is, of course, untrue. As previously noted, the video's title isn't Blank Room Soup, it's Freaky Soup Guy, and when it was first uploaded by an anonymous YouTuber going by the name Renaissance Men in 2005, the only story it featured in its description was the sentence, "We don't know what this is." There's no evidence that the video came from the deep web. Somewhat surprisingly, though, there aren't a lot of deeply researched or reported pieces on Blank Room Soup out there, which I was also having trouble finding. There's a lot of creepypasta, sure, but only a small handful of people who have really attempted to get to the bottom of the mythology surrounding the video. YouTuber Rainbot is one of them, though, and her 2015 investigation is worth a watch. Doesn't explain who made the video or why, but it does put the kibosh on some of the weirder rumors about it. Although Rainbot originally intended to debunk the video, she ultimately ended up not quite being able to do that, due simply to the fact that there isn't a lot of solid information about it to be found. She did get in touch with Raymond Percy himself, though, first by tracking down a variety of his video channels, then his Tumblr, and finally his email. And according to the email she received, 2 Ray Ray suits were actually stolen at some point in the early mid-2000s. The 2 Ray Ray suits had later appeared in the Blank Room Soup. Everything in these emails holds up to scrutiny, by the way. It all lines up with readily available information found on Mutator's website, Ray Ray's official websites, and the Ray Ray Vision YouTube channel, IMDb, and so on. According to Percy's emails, the suits were stolen after a performance in a club on Hollywood's Sunset Strip. The club was so tiny that the dressing room was just an old RV parked in the alley out back. an RV which it turned out didn't have a lock on the door and could therefore be entered by anyone who happened to walk by. And hey, guess what? After Percy and his crew were done striking the stage after the performance, they returned to the RV to find that the majority of their Ray Ray gear had been stolen. They had recently had some spare costumes made so the show could continue to go in the meantime, but Percy was understandably upset. Then a couple of weeks later, Percy received an email with a video file attached to it. It was the video that everyone is now calling Blank Room Soup, Percy wrote. The guy in the bib with his eyes blacked out eating I don't know what out of a bowl with a big spoon and my character standing around him. He posted it to YouTube so he could share it with his group. It's not clear whether the group means Mutator, the Ray Ray crew, or just Percy's friends, but honestly, it probably doesn't really matter. The bottom line is that's how the video ended up on YouTube in the first place. This story, by the way, also helps solve the mystery of who Renaissance Men on YouTube is. It's probably Percy himself. Remember, the original Freaky Soup Guy upload featured the simple description. We don't know what this is. That is, it's exactly the kind of description you'd give to a weird video starring your own hijacked creations if you want to share it with your friends to see what they can make of it. Additionally, the result of the content on the channel all looks to be Percy related. It's full of promos for the episodes of The Simpsons on which Percy worked, short clips of someone identified as Arno, who is, I'm sure, Mutator's Arno Yerazian, aka one of the folks credited with helping to bring Ray Ray to life, the Squirrel Nut Zippers video Percy directed, and so on. They seem to be weird and random assortment of clips that are difficult to make sense of at first, but you've got to bear their dates in mind. They're all from the early days of YouTube. The oldest one is Freaky Soup Guy from 2005, while the most recent one is dated 2010 and such. And as such, reflect the nature of early YouTube. The channel reads more like a personal scrapbook, rather than the slickly produced television-like juggernaut YouTube is now. Also, if you stick the main Renaissance landing page through the Wayback Machine, a capture from 2008 includes a link to another MySpace page, a different one from Ray Rayville. It's called Ray Ray_space. There are images of Ray Ray in the photo section, and the username displayed on the page is Raymond Percy. So Percy noted in his emails to Rainbot that the characters in the video he was sent moved to behave exactly the way they should, which, given that there wasn't much video footage of them widely available at the time, suggested that the people who made the video had seen Ray Ray perform before. And I definitely think it came from somebody who was in the area of the California show that they were at with that RV. They may have even been fans. Maybe that's what the video was, a sort of fan letter, a way to say, look, I get what you're saying, I feel that way too. If that's the case, then it also ended up being a sustained campaign of fandom. Percy wrote to Rainbot that he's been sent many more clips over the years that he hasn't uploaded anywhere. He did upload one other, though, and he later seemed to try to acknowledge the fact that his characters have been hijacked. Both Freaky Soup Guy and a second video called Soup Torture were uploaded to the Ray Ray TV Metacafe channel in 2007 and the Ray Ray TV Daily Motion channel in 2008. Note, though, that the Daily Motion videos have both since been made private. On Metacafe and Daily Motion, the description of the Freaky Soup Guy video reads, a clip of people who look like us doing something to someone that we would never do, we promise. While that of Soup Torture reads, what's happening in this clip and why do these people look like us? Excellent questions, and unfortunately, ones that Ray Ray's own creator can't even answer. So what do you guys think about that? That one creeps me the fuck out. You have no idea. It really creeps me out because that video, when I watch it, it seems very authentic. The man does not seem to be acting. That seems genuine. I think there's a reason we can't see his face, because then we'd be able to identify him. If this was an actor, why wouldn't he want to get recognition? And why wouldn't they come forward and say, hey, it was us. We did it. I don't know. It creeps me out, the fact that it was they were stolen, and then that video came out. I don't know, guys. That's some creepy shit right there. So this next one is true crime related, but such a creepy disappearance. Now we're going to be talking about the strange disappearance and murder of Chuck Morgan. Which, this one just really creeps me out. So this comes to us from unsolved.com. So authorities believe a businessman's death was suicide, while others believe he tried to buy his way out of a contract, killing, and failed. So here's the case details. On March 22nd, 1977, in Tucson, Arizona, escrow company owner Chuck Morgan left his home as usual and then disappeared. Morgan was a potential witness in a state land fraud case involving a known organized crime boss. On March 25th, 3 days later, Chuck stumbled back home at 2 in the morning. Chuck's wife, Ruth Morgan, woke up to a thump at the back door. I was in bed and the dog started barking. I got up, went to the door, and opened it, and there was Chuck. He was missing a shoe and had one plastic handcuff around one ankle and a set around his hands. When he motioned to his throat and didn't say a word, I asked him, "Can you talk? Can you write?" He shook his head yes. So I went and got a tablet and pen. He wrote that his throat had been painted with a hallucinogenic drug and that the drug could drive him irrevocably insane or destroy his nervous system and kill him. Sounds crazy off the bat. I wanted to call a doctor and the police, but he was adamant that he would be signing a death warrant for the entire family. Over the next week, Ruth nursed her husband back to health. Before his voice returned, he began to hint to her that he had a secret identity as an agent for the federal government. He wrote, "They took my treasury identification. That was the first I'd heard of it. Then he told me he had been working for them for about 2 or 3 years. And that was it." Was Chuck Morgan really a treasury agent secretly fighting organized crime? And who was it that abducted him? In the 1970s, the mafia established Arizona as a narcotics pipeline and a haven for money laundering. More than 500 racketeers set up shop there. What made Arizona attractive to crime syndicates was a state law which allowed anyone to buy up land through numbered blind trust accounts. This meant they could launder money and it couldn't be traced. Chuck Morgan had done real estate escrow work for at least one mafia family and possibly helped with the purchase of gold, bullion, and platinum, a more convenient way to launder money. Journalist Don DeVoe investigated Chuck's story. He was around the edges of a couple of very large organized crime groups in Arizona at that time. It was very easy to get in over your head, and I suspect that over the years, Mr. Morgan was in that kind of situation. He was doing perhaps upwards of $1 billion of escrow work in bullion and platinum. These were transactions that only existed on paper. He was a straight businessman that probably got a little too close to the flame. Ruth knew little of her husband's work. Chuck mentioned to me once that there was money laundering going on, but nothing that he himself was involved in. He told me, "The less the girls and you know, the better off you will be." After his kidnapping, Chuck took no chances. He wore a bulletproof vest and made sure he was the only one who drove his daughters to and from school, which that is interesting. But 2 months after his first disappearance, Chuck vanished again. 9 days later, Ruth Morgan received a mysterious phone call. An identified woman gave her a reference from the Bible. The woman said, "Ruthie?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Chuck is all right. Esthetics 12, 1-8. And then she hung up. The passage reads, in part, "Men are afraid of a high place and of terrors on the road. Remember him before the silver cord is broken and the gold bowl is crushed. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it." 2 days later, Chuck's body was discovered. He was wearing his bulletproof vest and had died from a single bullet fired at close range into the back of his head. The bullet came from his own .357 Magnum, which was lying beside him. Investigators also found a piece of paper with directions to the murder site written in Chuck's handwriting, a pair of sunglasses, which definitely did not belong to him. The police made one additional discovery. Chuck had clipped a $2 bill inside his underwear. Written on the bill were 7 Spanish names, beginning with the letters A through G. Above them was the notation, Esthetics 12. The verses 1-8 marked by arrows drawn on the bill's serial number. This was the same Bible verse the mysterious female caller had given to Chuck's wife. On the back of the bill, the signers of the Declaration of Independence were numbered 1-7, and there was a roughly drawn map. That map led to an area between Tuscan and Mexico, to the towns of Robles Junction and Salacity, both known for smuggling. Despite the unusual evidence, many in the sheriff's department believed Chuck's death was a suicide. They claimed he had shot himself in the back of the head. Ruth believed otherwise. There's no way Chuck would have committed suicide, and if he had even contemplated suicide, he would have left a letter for his girls and for me. Don DeVoe has his doubts as well. I've never seen, in all my years as a journalist, a fellow take himself out into the desert wearing a bulletproof vest and shoot himself in the back of the head. That blows my mind. I don't think this was suicide whatsoever. And if he was telling the truth about being kind of that, working as some sort of part of the government, with the Treasury and this and that, all I want to say is that this sounds like a cover-up. Because in no way does this sound like a suicide to me. No suicidal person is going to have any sort of safety vest on if they're going to kill themselves. That makes no sense. Also, if he was going to kill himself, why would he shoot himself in the back of the head? Why wouldn't he shoot himself in the front of the head? To shoot yourself in the back of the head, that's a very hard thing. That's a very hard angle. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's a very hard angle. You don't hear a lot of people doing that. They either shoot themselves from the chin, the forehead, or maybe the sides, but not the back of the head. The fact that he had gone missing once before and literally told his wife, all this shit, he got really paranoid. That's another suspicious thing that leads me to believe that this was murder. The fact that Ruth got that phone call from a woman, not from Chuck, from a woman's voice, to which they then found that bill, that $2 bill, which had that on it. That's insane. And the fact that they found sunglasses that weren't his, that is a huge piece of evidence right there. The fact that there were sunglasses that weren't his means that there was somebody else at the scene, that there was somebody else there with him. 2 days after Chuck's death, a woman called the Pima County Sheriff's Department. She said Chuck had come to meet her at a local motel just before he died. The woman called herself Green Eyes and said she was the same person who had called Chuck's wife, quoting the Bible passage. Green Eyes said in that motel, Chuck had showed her a briefcase containing thousands of dollars in cash. He told her that money would buy him out of a contract the mob had put on his life. The theory goes that organized crime put out the word that they wanted Chuck dead. The hitman then told Chuck, who came up with the money to buy off the hitman. But when the two men met in the desert, the hitman killed Chuck anyway and took his money. Don DeVoe believes Chuck might have not fully realized who he was involved with. There's great likelihood that Mr. Morgan was in fact doing something with the government. I think this was a guy who was extremely naive about a lot of things. I think somebody blew his cover and he got killed. After her husband's death, Ruth Morgan was visited by two men claiming to be from the FBI. They opened and closed their identification very fast, which to me, here's my thing. If they did that, I'd be like, excuse me, I didn't see that. I really would like to at least get your names. Because if you're going to come to my house, because I'm not saying it's easy to go and buy badges and but people do. There's a reason that people get caught impersonating police officers, FBI, and especially if you are involved with any form of the mob, let alone any form of the government or any form of a gang, something like that sort, it's very possible that they would have the means by going and buying those items on the black market to impersonate an FBI agent. They said they wanted to come in and look through the house. They never said what they were looking for, and to this day, I don't even know what they were looking for. They were probably looking for something that gave clue into A, what he was involved with, and two, into his death. If there was something that could prove that he had a hit on his life, then that just proves the mob theory. Or if there was something that he had government related, that, oh, now that he was dead, oh, we got to make sure that this isn't going to come out, some sort of thing like that. The men tore the house apart looking for something that they never found. Ruth was so upset, she didn't write down their names. No one knows for sure if the men were really from the FBI. Don DeVoe contacted the FBI to get more information on the Morgan case. When I made a Freedom of Information Act request to the FBI, they had never heard of Mr. Morgan, despite the fact that they had obviously opened an investigation, despite the fact that the FBI interviewed Mr. Morgan's attorney. They were all over this thing like a blanket for a while, but now they've never heard of the guy. He never existed. No card, no file, no nothing. That points to it, though, being that it was an FBI, that they were FBI agents, and that this is part of a cover-up, and that they were after something that could expose a part of the FBI, the government, a part of the Treasury, something. Chuck Morgan, I'm sorry. Not Chuck Morris. Sorry there, Chuck Morris. Chuck Morgan was doing undercover work for the government. Don DeVoe believes the clues he wrote on the $2 bill might have been an attempt to pass coded messages to the FBI. I think the $2 bill provided the basis for some kind of a code. What seemed to be missing, however, was the document that the $2 bill would unlock. If he was quietly providing assistance to the U.S. government and monitoring the activities of one or more major organized crime families, then he wasn't a villain. He was a good guy, and they need to know that. So, I mean, just so weird, you know? So freaking weird. You know? So I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? I think he definitely was a homicide. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that this was suicide. I do believe in the two theories of it either being a mob killing or a government-related killing. So I don't know, guys. This was a strange one. One of the strangest missing and murdered people cases I have ever came across. You know, because a lot of them, you know, I can say for sure, you know, it was that guy. You know, a lot of them I have a hunch of who I think it, you know. But this one, it's like, oh my God. And the fact that they really are trying to cover it up. I mean, God, just so crazy. So I hope that one day the family actually gets the answers they deserve and need. And, you know, maybe they can solve the case. But unfortunately, I think this is bigger than we know. I think it's bigger than what anyone has control over. I think that the government is somehow involved, and I think that I don't know, it could be some crazy shit. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I do want to say one more thing on the topic of missing people. How do you guys feel about faked deaths? That's going to be my next topic, I think, that we talk about is faking your own death, because I think that some people in these missing persons cases, not in this one specifically, but in other ones, I think that there could be cases of, you know, people faking their own deaths, or what happens to people when the government, you know, puts you in a safe house somewhere else. You know, I'm sure that there are situations and cases where people will actually have to literally start over in a whole new life. So I want to dive into that next time, I think, and I'm curious to know what you guys have to say on that. You guys are awesome, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please be safe out there. The world is really fucking crazy, and you never fucking know what's hiding in the shadows. So please, stay safe, guys.